So my name is Rembrandt, as you know, a pianist from the Netherlands, here in The Hague. So for me, ending up in Egypt, I still remember that feeling when I landed on Cairo airport and yeah, for the first time was experiencing the Middle East more thoroughly. For a very funny way, I felt at home and I felt very comfortable, which is odd because as you can see, I'm not Arab, I'm not Persian, I'm just European guy. So that's triggered in me a very nice, direction or interest or hobby or whatever, which I didn't know that I had. Because like before I went to Egypt, as a Dutch citizen, of course, I had the cliche images, like it's just a desert with some pyramids and everybody eats dates and they ride on camels and blah, blah, blah. So it was very nice actually to experience a little bit, I must say, contrary to nowadays all these identity politics which you read about all the time, where people first look at what you look like and then they start telling, well, this must be your roots. But long story short, I went there when I just finished high school. I knew that I wanted to become a professional musician, so that I needed to go to a proper conservatory, which then I did on my 19th. So let's say one in-between year became 2 in-between years because of this lovely family that I could just stay in their house for free. And whilst I was there, I learned some Arabic. I was working with many Sudanese refugees they had in Egypt at that time. So did some volunteer work. I was teaching at the American college some after-school activities, which had to do with jazz or improvising, music, obviously. And I must say, until this day, the fact that I can read and write Arabic script a little bit helps me very much, of course, from Morocco. Well, I guess all the way up to Pakistan even, when they still use Arabic script. But also when I travel to Iran, I don't speak Farsi, but at least phonetically, I can read a little bit what's written there. So for me, it's a nice connection, with so many musicians from this huge strip, Morocco, all the way up to Iran, or even more easterly. That when I was playing in Saudi Arabia last year, I did the announcements actually in Arabic, which I thought was very exciting to do. And likewise, in other countries. And of course, my grammar totally sucks. I don't speak Arabic well enough, but it opens a nice door. I guess you know this feeling. About the album Levantasy. So after my time in Egypt, I went to study here in The Hague. Fully went for jazz. So I also, I wouldn't say forgot, but like the Middle Eastern music got on a different track, not so important for me. And then after a couple of years, I was invited to play in the European Jazz Youth Orchestra, which was run by people from Denmark. And then I remember there was this talent scout, Erik Moselholm, and this gentleman traveled through Europe, scouting people for this European Jazz Youth Orchestra. And I was then the Dutch person to be in this orchestra, which toured in Europe and went to Brazil with Hermeto Pascoal, a wonderful composer and player from Brazil. And in the group, we had an Israeli oboist, Yoram Lachish. Still one of my closest, dearest friends. And together we started really making a group to dive more specifically into these pieces. And then my bass player, Tony, He joined at that time, and for us, what was the first project, although being jazz players, to really focus it on yeah, Middle Eastern building stones. And him being Israeli made it, of course, for us as a first project accessible, because like language wise, he speaks English very well. I think his family came from France or whatever. So it was easier to access than, for instance, Saudi or Iraqi or other musicians. Yeah, so that was kind of a nice start into blending in a way, blending jazz with Middle Eastern music. The start of the long-lasting project with Kehan Kahor, this came about that a nice music festival gave me a call, and they said, well, for coming edition, we want to give you a kind of carte blanche situation. But to make that run smoothly, we'd like to ask you to make a list of the 10 musicians that you think that would be very nice to collaborate with. And this is just for brainstorm reasons, they told me. And the coincidence was that they, to make this talk go smooth, also made a list what they thought would be nice for me. And funny enough, they also had Kehan on their list. So that was a very nice coincidence that from all the musicians you could ask, at least one name popped up on both lists. So that made the talk also extremely short, because I said like, well, this is very, very coincidence, a big coincidence that we both mentioned Kehan. So we will call him and see if he can make it, see what the conditions are. We had no clue where he lived at that time. So they organized it. And from there on, it started rolling. So he came to my house here. We went to the studio, which is in the attic, and we kind of had prepared something, and then Kehan said, what of course we're still doing, well, let's just sit, let's agree on a tonality. We play D minor or G major, and let's just improvise for an hour, which we did, maybe 1.5 hours. And out of that grew the project, the album we made, It's Still Autumn, and that's kind of went, yeah, kind of organical way. arts is a very, very good way of showing how the other person is also just a human, you know. And if you like each other's music, now in Israel and Gaza, which of course is dramatic on all possible sides, it would be naive to say that music is going to save these complex matters. But if people at least would like their, as a first start, you know, just first start, if people would like their music a little bit, you're not for sure going to see the other one as the enemy so much, because music just directly speaks to the ears, to the heart, to the mind. And with language, this is always, of course, much more difficult. So yeah, in my reimagining this on a world scale, I do sincerely believe that our efforts, your efforts as well, are contributing, you know, for people to get to know each other, to work together and enjoy the same piece of beauty, hopefully in the same whole also together as a tool, you know.